All right, welcome in. Let's get it going here. NFL week number 12. I'm Joe Raineri in for Kelly Stewart as she is, celebrating her birthday. Pretty good excuse for her not to show up here today, but we do have all the same information we're going to provide for you guys here, make it a profitable week 12. We will have Mark Zinno a little bit later talking about the NFL action. Your questions, if you have any, on the slate of games here today. John Murray over at the Sportsbook. We'll get some of his biggest needs and wants. We'll talk to him, of course. We'll drop a little college basketball knowledge on you at the end with Adam Trigger. But no better way to start off week 12 than with Gianni the Greek. VR in the house. And VR, we got ourselves some movement here this morning across the board with some of these games. A lot of late steam, my man. What are you seeing?
All over the place, Joe. And you got to couple in college basketball as well. Don't forget that because, most people are just betting the NFL. And when that's the case, that's when you can really take advantage of college basketball and those other markets because even the sports books are focused on the NFL. People, just average bettors are betting the amount of money that's being bet on the NFL compared to college basketball is minuscule. So no one's paying attention. He could really take advantage. I'm seeing a lot of the lines move a lot slower than normal as well because of that. So real quickly, let's talk NFL. Here's what's sticking out. Detroit and the Colts. I'm a little bit surprised here. I thought it would be all Detroit money, but that's just not the case. Home dogs on Indianapolis, you're getting a lot of love from the betting public. That's why it's sitting at 7 and not 7.5. Because this would have been up to 7.5 had the public been on Detroit like you'd expect, but that's just not happening. They're teasing Detroit, but they're taking the 7 with the Indianapolis Colts, and everybody is betting that one over like they have tomorrow's newspaper. Be careful, because why isn't that line a lot higher? That total could be a lot higher. Look at their numbers over the last couple of weeks for both of these teams. Carolina, Kansas City, not much to report there. Minnesota, Chicago, this is Joe's verse. Not really. This is kind of like public and the Sharps all on one side, and that's Minnesota. Why aren't we looking at 3.5 here? That's what's surprising. The look ahead was 4.5. You saw some Chicago money come in when that was the case. After that, I can confirm that a betting syndicate did lay the 3 with Minnesota, but why are we not looking at 3.5 or even 3 minus 125s, 120s? I'm seeing 3 minus 115s. That's scary, especially when the public's on Minnesota as well. Very heavy there. Also, both are on the under. Cowboys, Commanders, Sharps are on Washington. They laid the 10. The public's laying the 10 also. Be careful there. Public and the Sharps on the same side. One-sided public money on Tampa Bay. They're trying to entice some Giants money. That just hasn't gotten there at 6. It's been nothing but Tampa Bay. Patriots and the Dolphins over got steamed. That's why we're looking at 45.5, some 46s as well. And 7.5s got picked off. A lot of 7.5s on Indianapolis. On the Patriots earlier in the week, but more than enough Miami money today. That's why it's up to 7.5. Nothing really going on Texans and the Titans. Broncos, one-sided Broncos money. Since that line came out, it's been nothing but Broncos. You see now it's up to like 5.5, 6. You saw a little take back on the Raiders at plus 6. I think that scared the books because that opens them up for such a big middle. Finally dropped down to the Packers and the 49ers. One-sided 49er money. Now, we got in at money line and at minus 2.5. Now you're looking at minus 6, and they're still laying it. Like, nobody's taking Dallas, Joe. And the way that the betting public is overcoming the line move is tying them up in teasers. Do not do that. You gain nothing by teasing a minus 6-point favorite. Even if it wins on the teaser, it wasn't a good bet. Again, the goal is to place good bets. Bad bets win all the time, just like good bets lose all the time. But if you bet enough bad bets long-term, you're going to go broke. You place enough good bets long-term, you're going to make money. You can't guarantee you're going to win today by placing good bets, but if you plan on betting tomorrow, then make that a habit. And again, teasing a minus 6 is not a good bet. Finally, Sunday night, they're going to have a ton of risk on the Eagles, a ton of risk on the over as well. Betting syndicates did go in on the over. So you got the public and the Sharps on the over. But they have bailed them out on the dog, taking some Rams at plus 3. but I think that risk will increase. Keep an eye out. Will they go to 3.5? Will they go to 3 juice? Or will it even come off of that? Because again, a lot of risk will be on that Eagles side. And finally, don't forget to Wong tease closer to kickoff. We're really too far away for me to tell you what those teams are going to be right now. But looking at the board, if it was kickoff right now, we would only be teasing the Houston Texans. We would only be teasing. That's it. We don't even have a second team. So as of right now, it would only be the Houston Texans. So we don't even have a second team to tease as of 12:15 Eastern time. Again, if you want to win with the Wong teaser, you got to do it the right way. So far this year, doing it my way, they're 33-12, Joe. So even if you're laying -130, you're still up about 18 positions. So just blindly betting $100 per teaser, you're up over $1,800 in 10 weeks, doing nothing but betting numbers 15 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions in the chat room for you, VR. We'll get to, but I got to I got to ask you about this Giants Tampa Bay game too, as well. Have you seen any buyback on the Giants at all during the week here? Because it's been 6 the whole week, and it's just not moving. The total's moving, not the side.
Yeah, Earl, here's what there is. The sharps I spoke to were all saying it's an overreaction. It's an overreaction on DeVito. He shouldn't be this big of a dog. He should progress towards the mean. His expected passing success rate last year was not even 30%. Sure, he won some football games, but it was horrific. Well, if that's the case, then it should improve, right? But that's not what the market reflects. The market, like you said, reflects that it's been nothing but Tampa Bay money. I do know there are some 6s in the pockets of some very sharp bettors on the New York Giants. The only reason you're still seeing 6 out there is because of the influx of public money on Tampa. I'm telling you, they're betting Tampa like they have tomorrow's newspaper, Joe. They're teasing Tampa like they have tomorrow's newspaper, and they can't lose this game. Be careful of Danny DeVito, baby. Be careful of Danny DeVito. That's all I'm saying. Because why is this line not at 7? Because I'll tell you why. Because a lot of those 6s were getting picked off at times. I don't know why they didn't wait to get a better number than that. But that is actually what was happening there. Surprised that I'm not going to get 7, but I don't think it'll ever get there because, again, they already taken some of the 6. So if you want to be on the sharp side, you may want to have a +6 in your pocket. Otherwise, you're with the public. Doesn't mean they're going to lose, but they're betting Tampa like they have tomorrow's newspaper.
VR was a little head scratching to me. I was waiting for it to get to 7, and it just never did all week long. And I don't know. Nobody's betting the Giants. It's kind of crazy here. But the total has been pushed down there to about 40.5 right now at MetLife. A couple of questions coming in here, VR. Guys, don't forget, hit that like button. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button. Become part of that WagerTalk TV family. Drop your questions in the chat if you're joining us live here on Last Call. I believe Preston came in with a question regarding the teasers and wanted to know, can you explain why teasing to -1.5 is more efficient than teasing to 0?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what that means, the teasing to 0. When we tease down, the only thing we're teasing down are -7.5, 8, and 8.5. And the reason for that is we're trying to get through the numbers 3 and 7. You can't do that to get to 0. To get down to 0, you'd have to need a 7.5 point teaser. Because again, we're trying to get through 3 and 7. That's all that matters. 3, 4, 6, and 7, actually. And the only way to do that is to tease down 7.5, 8, and 8.5, and tease up 1.5, 2, 2.5. So you're taking the 1.5 up to 7.5, 2 up to 8, 2.5 up to 8.5. That gets you through 3. It gets you through 7. Same thing the other way. You're going 8.5, 8, and 7.5, because that brings you down to 2.5, 2, and 1.5. And both of those get you 3 to 7 and the 3. That's all you're trying to do. Not caring about getting it down to 0. You just want to get it through the 3. Down to 2.5's enough. That's the goal.
Yep. Key numbers. That's what it's all about there. VR, Dino in the chat.
No team totals. Sorry,
no
Tyler.
Team totals,
no team
right?
totals. No. I would share them right away. I think it's just too hard to get down on a lot of those, especially the first half ones. And I guess just some of the game totals we're able to get down on. So I didn't get any of those derivatives today. One total that keeps jumping out, I got to keep saying it because they're just betting it while I'm sitting here. They're betting that Minnesota Chicago under. They keep betting it. They keep betting it. I don't understand why.
Doesn't that favor Chicago? Maybe I would think the under favors Chicago more so than the third straight game for Minnesota. And like you said, why are we only still seeing 3 in this game? It's kind of baffling if all the shops are on Minnesota. It doesn't make any sense, Gianni.
At all. I tell you, if Chicago wasn't so bad, I'd want to bet them. But those are the kind of tickets that you cash, Joe. The ones that is hard to take the money out of your pocket. I'll tell you that. Whenever I used to walk up to the sportsbook window, strutting my stuff like I can't lose, like I got a freaking lock, dude, I'd get slapped in the face so freaking hard. The second that I got up to the window and it was hard pulling that money out, to bet a bad Detroit Tigers team back in the early, and they would win 30 games a year. That took a lot of guts. To bet a bad NFL team, like when the money doesn't even want to come out of your pocket. And those are usually the tickets that cash the easiest, the ones that you don't want to make. And Chicago, for some reason, is a bet I don't want to make today. So I'm probably going to end up making it before kickoff.
I liked it at 3.5. I'm not, now it's stuck at 3. It's like, oh, good Lord. But
right
Raiders,
up until kickoff. The Raiders. Why is Denver being bet? Again, Denver, like no one should ever lose. No one should ever lose.
Nope.
I don't get it.
We got a bunch of questions regarding Arizona and Seattle, too. Want to know whether or not Arizona and Seattle is worth taking a look at here. It's been pick 'em pretty much all week. I mean, -1 on both sides. But for the most part, Arizona, Seattle, are you seeing a lot on one side or the other?
Seattle's owned this series. They haven't played yet so far this year, but they have owned the series. They won 5 straight against them. You have a Seattle team that's coming off a big win as 6-point dogs at San Francisco, which is huge. They have nothing absolutely on deck but the New York Jets. Where you look at Arizona, this is a tough game. They've won a bunch of games in a row, but it was against nobody. It was against the Jets. It was against Chicago, and one of them was against Chicago. The only decent win was against Miami. I think that was even without Tua. So, again, they were dogs. They won games that they weren't supposed to win. But I think right now you're not getting much value on the Arizona team. I fear fading a team that has the quarterback that's number 1 in passing success rate. But in this spot, Seattle at home, I think is the way I would play it. Their home field hasn't shown up yet this year. They're 2-4 there compared to 3-1 on the road, but that's too small of a sample size to matter. Zoom out a little bit further, and you'll see I don't think home field advantage is being factored into this price. And away from home, Arizona is just a 500 team. I don't think they should be road favorites at all. I mean, it's 1. It doesn't really matter, but for me, it's a Seattle or pass type of game.
Yeah, it's in 12th man and all there. Seattle needs this win in a big way. What is going on here with Detroit? Nobody seems to be betting Detroit because this number is still hovering around a touchdown, Yanni. What did you see 2-way action all week in this one?
I'm so surprised today that the betting public is taking the Colts. They're taking the 7 with the Colts. In fact, I'm looking right now, and there is more Colts money line action than Detroit money line action. Yes, I'm saying that's correct. There are more straight bets on Indianapolis money line than there are on Detroit money line as of right now for one of the books that I'm looking at. They have more Indianapolis money even as far as straight bets go because of the public that came in. You got to remember, the Lions didn't get bet by the wise guys or anything like that. So it's not as if the wise guys came in and steamed Detroit. It would have been the public that got in on the Detroit side. And again, when you got 2-way public money, it's not going to move the line much. In fact, it was 7.5 and came down. So I'm telling you, it's not as if I don't know what those percentage sites are showing, what percentage the money's on, but I can tell you what the real money's on. The guys that are actually taking money out of their pocket and betting it, it's not on Detroit. It is not on Detroit. There's more money on Indianapolis right now than on the Detroit side, at least with some of this, the squares taking that 7 on Indy.
I'm showing. You ready for this, Gianni? 22% of the tickets on Indy, 56% of the money.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, more money's on Indianapolis, and I don't have any of the groups that I work with taking the points with the Colts. So I don't know who's doing it. Someone's got to be betting the Colts to keeping that line where it's at. I'm those kind of games I just stay away from. What sticks out to me the most is the under, Joe. That what sticks out to me the most. Because there's no reason we should be looking at 50 at the sharper books. The square books are at 50.5 even. They're not even at 51. Where the square books should be at 51. They're not even there. To me, that's a telling sign. You got to bet this one under. No matter what happens, the market's telling you this game's not going to reach 50 points. Again, they could score 70 in the first quarter. I'm not saying it's a lot. But yeah. Where that number stays, it shouldn't go over.
All right, VR, we'll get one more and we'll get you out of here. Of course, the steam room waiting for you here.
Wide open,
also,
baby.
your page. What's it? Also, your page at WagerTalk.com, locked and loaded here for today. Look ahead to me for tonight, Philadelphia and the Rams. What kind of action have you seen throughout the week? Because it does appear as if, I don't know, maybe the Rams are getting a little late money here in the morning.
From the Sharps. The Sharps like the Rams in this game.
Yeah.
We already bet the over. They got in the over earlier in the week. There was a little bit of resistance. That's why that total dropped back down. But I can tell you, sharp money on the over, public money on the over as well. Rams, you got Philadelphia coming in, having won a bunch of games in a row. I think 6 straight games. They've covered 4 of their last 5. Big game against Dallas, big game against Washington. So they had back-to-back divisional games that they got the win. And more importantly, they're at Baltimore next. Now, they're not going to overlook a Sunday night game in LA, but this is a much bigger game for the Rams right now, who've coming off of nothing. They had New England last week. They have New Orleans on deck. No divisional game, nothing like that. This is the game for the Rams. They could be a 6-5 football team. We know with that division, he could be 500 and possibly win it. They're still live. So I think you're going to get a huge effort from the Rams. I think that 4-1 Eagles away record is a little bit phony. I like the Rams at getting points. I think they win this game outright. I think the books are going to need the Rams. A ton of risk will be on the Eagles. And I think if bettors are chasing, they're going to chase with the Eagles on Sunday night as well. Eagles and over is going to be the bets, I think. I think the books are going to need the Rams. I like the Rams. Sharp money on the Rams. We'll see how that turns out. That's why it's still at 3, and that's why you got to pay juice even to get the 3 on LA.
Yep, absolutely. All right, VR, tell them where you're in the steam room here. What do you got locked loaded on your page at WagerTalk.com?
Yep, going back into the steam room because we still have the afternoon games to go through. We covered every early game, gave a couple bonus plays. Like there's stuff comes in, Joe, like 10 minutes before, 8 minutes, 9 minutes before, and it's just not in the system. Like I gave 2 or 3 bets already that I can't give out to subscribers, but I bet them for myself, and the guys in the steam room bet them as well. So head on over there, go to wagertalk.com. I have my package up, got a good NFL pass there, and huge next week. Thanksgiving weekend, we live for those 4 days. There's more an influx of recreational money than pretty much anywhere other time than the first week of the season or afterwards, bowl games and playoffs. So you want to be on board, head on over to wagertalk.com, and we'll have a steam room next week as well for Thanksgiving weekend.
The hell out of here, VR.
Jesus,
enjoy your day, brother. Appreciate it.
Luck.
Thank you, my man. All right, so we don't forget, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are hanging with us here on Wager Talk's Last Call. Still to come here, we're gonna talk some college hoops coming up. So a loaded slate of games here today. Adam Trigger will be back in the hot seat. He'll answer any questions on the games and give out a best bet or 2 for you guys on the slate coming up. Also, we'll try to get the reception back in the risk room at the Westgate Superbook with John Murray. If not, we'll get you what you guys need to know here and get you what their big needs are so you guys have that information before we're done. In the meantime, let's welcome in Mark Zinno in the house, ready to roll here on this Week 12 slate in the NFL. Zin, fun week here. So we just talked to VR. You heard some interesting line movements and last-minute bets taking center stage. Let's start with that Detroit and Indy game up at the top here. Everybody loves Indy, apparently, in the market because that's not going anywhere. Are you a believer in Indy getting a cover here?
Well, it's Indy or pass. I'm not stepping in front of the wagon that is the Detroit Lions right now. I mean, hey, I'll say this out loud because I really don't care. You want to tease the Lions down to 1, knock yourself out and do it. I think it's a smart move because I don't see the Lions are losing this game. They're not going to lose. They might sleepwalk through this thing. Heck, they might be pushed to the limit in a field goal win, but I don't think the Lions are losing this game. So tease whatever you want.
Yep.
To me, I highly recommend taking the Lions down to -1 and teasing it because you can do what you want with your money. So there is that. But again, I don't think there's a world where the Lions lose this game. I'm just not. At some point in time, Detroit's going to have a stinker game, kind of like what they did against Houston, right? Like Jared Goff on the road, even though he's indoors, his road numbers throughout his career have been much worse than his home numbers. So I don't like to back Jared Goff on the road. If you go look at his splits, granted, again, he is indoors, so it's different than him being outdoors. But still, it's not a favorable position. His touchdown to interception ratio goes from like 3-1 at home to 2-1 on the road. So it's just, I think things change a lot. So it's Indy or pass. But yeah, I mean, I think that understand why the marketplace is looking at Indianapolis. is a lot of the early betting and the early betting public got on Detroit because they are such a wagon. But for me, again, Indy or pass.
All right, guys, don't forget, drop your questions for Zinno if you got one on the games coming up here today. 11 games on this slate. There are some good ones, and then there are some just overreactions here, Zin. I mean, good Lord, this 49ers Green Bay line is out of control here. So we learn, of course, Brock Purdy's out. I thought everyone hated Brock Purdy, but now all of a sudden he's worth almost a touchdown move. Like, what are we doing here, Zin?
Here's the thing, okay? And we have several empirical data points on this. The system that Kyle Shanahan runs is the same one that Kevin O'Connell is running in Minnesota and Sean McVay is running in Los Angeles. Remember when John Wofford from the AAF came in and quarterbacked the Rams to a couple of wins? Do you remember, when all of a sudden Sam Darnold, who couldn't throw an out route, in New York with the Jets, now all of a sudden is leading the Vikings to wins? The system that they run does not need a high-level quarterback to run it effectively, and that's really all that matters here. You just can't screw it up and turn the ball over. I'm not saying Brandon Allen is a world beater, but if you strip Brock Purdy of a jersey and a helmet and put him in a room and said, what are this quarterback straight, and you put Brandon Allen next to him in that same room, I guarantee you they're not that much different. Remember, Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft, so the drop-off in quarterback here, to me, is not matching the line movement whatsoever. Is Bosa worth the point? Yeah, probably. Maybe a point and a half to Nick Bosa. They're 5-10, the Niners are, straight up without Bosa in the lineup. So it's hard for them to win games when he's not there. But the quarterback drop-off, to me, is an issue. Jordan Love still likes to throw a lot of interceptions. He's very, for lack of a better way to phrase it, Favre-esque with his duck and chuck, his risk-reward when he throws the football. So I'm away from this game. I have no desire to get involved. If I didn't take Green Bay -2 earlier in the week, I'm not even touching this thing here. I don't necessarily trust Green Bay. If they run the ball and can run it well, and the Niners defense still stops the run fairly well, not as good as they have in years past, but that's really where I think the game is how much can Green Bay run the ball and control the clock. And I'm, again, with all this live movement and variance, I'm just not interested.
Yes, and I'll say it. I already, it's been 8 games in a row for him now. Jordan Love with an INT that he has started, make it 9. He's throwing another interception here today, over a half an interception. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Also, 49ers in a great bounce back spot with that upset home loss a week ago. Don't sleep on them on this spot. I think they're
a desperate team. Like they have to win games. So, if they have any desire on winning, they can't. They don't take anybody lightly. Again, I think this is the first time in 36 games the Niners have been an underdog. So for the last 2.5 seasons, I'm favored all the time.
Packers also one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. This could be a Christian McCaffrey. Just give me the damn ball game, and I'll handle this from here. So that's interesting. Did you touch Kansas City and Carolina at all? Because I quite honestly thought this number would be a little bit higher, but there seems to be some resistance in the market. Carolina getting some buyback here now, and we're hovering around 10.5, 10s I'm starting to see.
I mean, look, the only way I would play this game, when you look at the game itself, you're asking them to cover 10.5, 11 in a total of 43. It's a really tight window for them to get to. Essentially, what you're saying here is they're going to win this thing, 23-10, right? Like that's what or 30-17, somewhere in that range. That puts it at this weird number. But in reality, I mean, I would look at this and say Carolina team total under 14.5. Do you really think they're putting up 3 scores on this Chiefs defense? Is Bryce Young going to put up 3 scores against this Kansas City defense? Like Buffalo had a hard time putting up 3 scores against Kansas City's defense. And they were home. That's the only play I would make. Carolina under 14.5 team total. Or maybe if you get 7.5 in the first half, try to take some of the variance out of it. If Kansas City's up late and they let a garbage score go in, their defense probably a little bit more invested in the first half. But that's the way I would do this. I just don't see Carolina's offense finding any level of success against Kansas City, especially coming off a loss.
Yeah, maybe even a team total under kind of situation there as well for them. Yep, yeah, I like that a lot there. The other big spread in the day here, Zin, and guys, don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We appreciate it. Drop those questions in the chat if you got them from Mark Zinno. We talked to VR, and he said, listen, literally nobody is betting Dallas. Nobody. That worries me. because nobody's betting them. And usually that means this is, here we are, week 12's in. This is usually when you go, are you kidding me here? But can you even bet Dallas?
Washington's my survivor pick. Please don't do this to me. I was feeling very comfortable about this thing.
Well, listen, winning and covering are two different things. So they can still win, but are they covering?
You would think so. I mean, again, this is a spot here where if I may look to I'm really never interested in laying 10 or 11 points, but I would play Washington or not. Look to their team total again, 27.5. What have the Cowboys defense given up the last couple of weeks to pretty much everybody? 34, 34, 27, and 30 and 47. Like during this 5-game losing streak, only once did a team not get to 28, and that was the Falcons. So, I mean, like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like you could take the over, but this Commanders defense, it's hard to figure out. It was bad earlier in the year. It's starting to look a little bit better, but I don't know if it actually is better because of who they've played as of late, other than the Eagles. They played the Steelers offense, the Giants offense, the Bears offense, the Panthers. Like, these are not high-level offenses, right? These are not high-scoring offenses. Are the Cowboys a high-scoring offense? No. And I don't know that they're going to be able to do their part to get this thing over the total for this game. So I would look more towards Washington and hope they put 4 touchdowns up. But it is fairly low at 44. I mean, by my math, again, if you get Washington, the real question is, can Dallas get to 20? Because you figure Washington will at least get to 4. That's what you're really hoping for. Can the Cowboys score 20 points? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I mean, it's so hard to figure out. I mean, is CeeDee Lamb even 100% healthy for this thing? What does that look like? There's so many questions with the Dallas offense here that it's a hard thing to bet. If you ask me, it's Washington minus the 11 or pass, but I really, it's another game I'm not too interested in getting involved in.
What are you thinking on the Minnesota-Chicago side here? Still hovering around -3. It looks like it might even be heading to -2.5 here. So the Bears are getting bet, which is kind of crazy, but the total's getting bet under as well, which I got to think favors the Bears at home here. The question is, a third straight road game for Sam Darnold. Yeah, he is going to turn into a pumpkin, people realize at some point here, Zinno, right? It's coming at some point here.
I've been telling people that for a month now, and nobody's paying attention. Why? Because what have the Vikings been doing? They've been stacking wins. But let's see who they stacked wins against. The AFC South and the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Colts. Guess what? They're not good. They stack wins against the Jets and the Giants. They're also not good. They beat the Packers, Texans, and 49ers are probably the only 3 legit wins that they have. Their 2 losses are to the Lions and the Rams. This is a fugazi 8-2 team if there ever was one. And Sam Darnold is going to return to the Sam Darnold that we all knew and loved that wore the Jets helmet back in the day. That's kind of where I sit on this thing. You mentioned the 3 straight road games. Since 2020, teams on their 3rd consecutive road game only cover about 45% of the time, 17-7 straight up in those spots. In those 24 games, only 5 of those teams were favorites. They went 2-3 straight up in ATS. The 2 that covered were less than field goal favorites. We have over a field goal here, had it earlier in the week. That's kind of, the breakdown here for this game. I think that when it comes down to it, this Chicago defense is actually playing better than what we're giving it credit for. Let me ask you this, Joe. Just do some math here. Because the Bears are literally 2 plays away from being 6-4. If the Hail Mary falls, Cairo Santos makes that kick, and the Bears are 6-4. My numbers say that the line is somewhere between Vikings -1 and Bears -1. And this thing opened up at 4. I mean, we have to objectively look at the Bears and say they're not getting blown out. They're not getting, they're not playing bad football. They just have had some piss poor coaching, which is part of your handicap, and it should be because some of these guys are real morons, and Eberflus actually falls into that category of a certified moron. Yep. Beyond that, again, I just think there's an overvalue on the Vikings in the marketplace here and an undervaluing of the Bears. And again, you're taking a road team, a dome team, putting them outdoors in a bad environment. It's something stinky about this thing, as you said.
Yeah, no, I'm with you here. I don't get it, and I'm still seeing the money coming in on the Bears as we speak. All right, Zim, we got what a day it's going to be. What do you got locked and loaded over at WagerTalk.com?
Joe, 5% best bet in the NFL, along with a 4% play. So we got 2 plays up for this Sunday. Coming off a 4-1 day yesterday in college. Damn you, North Texas, for blowing a 21-0 lead at home, preventing me from sweeping the board going 5-0. But WT.buzz/MZ, get that 5% best bet. It is in the early window, guys, at 1 o'clock, so it won't be there much longer. Go ahead and jump in and get it now.
In the 1 o'clock time frame, go get it with Mark Zinno over his page at WagerTalk.com. Titans Pats, Zin, one more before we get you out of here with Titans CT. I know VR said teasing Houston seems to be a popular move. The Pats, not with your money, Titan CT. Not in Miami, not against Tua. And not from what I'm hearing all week long down in Miami. This has got blowout written all over it. And the over is getting bet, by the way, big time.
I don't want to underestimate Drake May here. I think he's playing really well. For me, it would be Pats or pass. I didn't know where we got to a world where all of a sudden Miami is laying 7 every week. Miami's better, obviously, with Tua, but I don't know if they're a touchdown better than that. May speak more to who they're playing than anything else. But I think the Pats are a little undervalued. And their offense, look, they hung with the Rams last week. Here's the problem with both the Patriots and the Titans. When Houston and Miami have a 1-score lead, right, or a touchdown lead late, you're asking Drake May and you're asking Will Levis to, in a tight window, go down the field and score a touchdown and get us back, even if they're up by 10, right? Go down and get us a scoring drive. That's a bad recipe for those two teams. So you're in danger of being within a number and then being pulled away late. Or again, if they get to 10, you're trying to get back within a number. You're asking Will Levis to go make a critical throw down the stretch in crunch time, and it's just not a favorable situation. Drake May, I trust a little bit more than I do Will Levis, and I trust the Patriots offense a little bit. Remember, I mean, Drake May has been playing really well with nobody around him at all. They have you and me running routes at wide receiver, Joe. Like, that's what this is at this point in time. And the kid is pretty good. Yep. I look at his rushing yards prop, too. I think he'll take off and run. He's not scared of that. Obviously, he was a mobile guy in college. So that's the direction I look. But I think the Patriots can stay within this number. Their defense is underrated as well. It's just a question of, can their offense perform, and how good is Miami's defense?
Yeah, well, nobody punches down quite like Miami does. And just asked the Raiders last week. And by the way, they gave up. It is single-handedly the worst secondary in the NFL. And if Stafford on the road can drop 4 touchdowns, what do you think Tua, Tyreek Hill, Waddle and company are going to do to them? That's why the over is being bet up as we speak. 46 is starting to show up now in the marketplace. All right, get out of here, Zin. Big day ahead. Don't forget that 5% best bet of his ready to roll over at WagerTalk.com. Visit his page as that game is getting ready to kick off here at the top of the hour. Also a huge day in college hoops. We wanted to leave you with a couple of best bets here as we welcome in Adam Trigger, ready to go. And it was an early start here today in college hoops, Trig. Over 50 games, I think, on the card. A lot of these MTEs are starting to wind down, starting to get some championship basketball here. Hit us with a game or two here that you like, in what tournaments, and where are we looking today?
Yeah, so, Joe, you said there's already, I think, 1 game in the books. Princeton and Portland have already finished, 10 going, but we still have 40 games to talk about. I will take questions on any of them. I'll give you one of my best bets for today, though, and I'll use the one that's later, just because I know some people circle back to watch this show. I want there to be a little bit of shelf life for this. So I took Texas State plus 3.5. This is part of the Conway, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach Invitational. It's down at the campus of Coastal Carolina. I'm pretty confident at this point, Joe, that Sharif Mitchell will not play for Ohio today. So if you've been following the Sharif Mitchell saga, if you will, at this point, I think he played the first 2 games of the season, and then it's kind of been up in limbo when he would come back. He was ruled out of the Memphis game, much to my dismay. I had Ohio in that game, had a good number on Ohio in that game, and I thought they could cover without him. I kind of expected him not to play there. They were a mess. I heard that he was going to give it a go on what was, I think, Thursday. This tournament played Thursday Friday, Saturday. I don't remember. I think they might have actually no. Yeah, I think they played Thursday, Friday, Sunday, maybe. So it was said that he may give it a go. He didn't. I listened to Jeff Bowles talk about this twice this weekend so far. Said, and he kind of went and said, we're going to work him out, but we're not really interested in rushing him back. I feel like if he didn't get out there against Portland, which was Ohio's most recent win, he's probably not going to play here. If he does play here, he'd be very, very limited. My gut tells me that bringing him back against Robert Morris 6 days from now at home makes more sense. And without him, I make Texas State the favorite here. So I actually have Texas State, even with Mitchell playing, a slight favorite on a neutral floor. This was a Texas State team, Joe, that I was very high on last year. And I never really got my chance to take shots with them because everyone got hurt early in the season. And then pretty much they were done for the year. Like they had 4 or 5 guys that missed considerable time. 2 or 3 players missed the entire season. So Texas State's a team that I want to come back with now. And I like what I've seen so far. That was a really nice win over Princeton. I think we did the college basketball tip-off show, and I said Texas State was a team I wanted to target this weekend. They lost their first game, came back outright win over Princeton. We're catching 3.5 points here on a neutral floor in a game where it's like the last game of this MTE, the 5th place game. Probably no one in the arena. Right? It's the 5th place game in South Carolina. On a Sunday night, Coastal you know what I mean? I can't see, there's not going to be much of a crowd here. So I'm just going to go with Texas State. The team I think is a little bit more complete at this point. And again, if Mitchell's out again for Ohio, they really have not looked good without him. Too many turnovers, bad floor spacing. I think Texas State can take advantage of that. So this was one of my 4% client plays for today.
All right, there we go. Texas State here, guys. Heading to the chat room here. Big Daddy, a question on Maryland team total over 71.5, taking on Nova here today. And I do not like Maryland's offense whatsoever. I don't think they've played a team sub 250 yet. Have they? Maryland, they're playing a bunch of nobodies here. At least we know Nova is going to bring some sort of semblance of defense here. You trust them to get up and over 71.5 points?
Well, I was going to say, is Nova going to bring some sort of defense because they couldn't guard Virginia?
Well, that's true, too.
And that's
yep.
That's pretty, after seeing Virginia play in the Bahamas the last couple of days, that's real concerning. I felt like, I think we talked about the first game, the Virginia-Tennessee game, on the WagerTalk programming earlier this week. And one of the comments I made was, how I felt like the offense was a little bit more open under Ron Sanchez. And I pointed to that Villanova game. And now after watching the 2 games in the Bahamas, I wonder if that's just Villanova not being a very good basketball team, which who can argue with that, right? Like they've got a couple horrible losses already this season. And they let Virginia score far more than they probably should have, based on what we've seen Virginia now do. So, I mean, I don't really have a good take on a total. That's just not my forte. As far as this game is concerned, there's not any line value here anymore. There's no line value in playing against Villanova anymore. So that's where it becomes tough, right? Because really the way I would want to play this game is to fade Villanova. They had the loss to St. Joe's, the loss to Virginia. We know they lost to Columbia earlier this year. And then they come out, Joe, and win 93-49 against what I consider to be the worst team in the Ivy, though Dartmouth might have something to say about that. But I really think Penn might end up being the worst team in the Ivy League this year. I couldn't possibly back Villanova coming off of that. At the same time, I'm not trying to lay that many with Maryland. So I wish I had more of an opinion on this one. I do think Maryland probably wins, but I don't know how you make money off that opinion. So again, just wish I had more of a take there.
All right, no problem there. What about over at your page, Trig, at WagerTalk.com? What do you got locked and loaded on a loaded college basketball slate here today?
Yeah, so 4 plays for me so far today, Joe. One of them goes in 15 minutes. That's in the NFL. 5% max bet, 4-1 in my last 5 NFL plays. I only put 2 NFL plays out for this week. One of them was the Cleveland Browns on Thursday night, and then one goes at 1 p.m. Game I like quite a bit. I've played 3 college basketball games already, packaged those all together. I just gave you the Texas State play, so Texas State plus 3.5 is one of those plays. And even if I add games, and there's a couple that are right there close for me, and I kind of might do what I did yesterday and kind of see how the early ones go, maybe add later. You'll get those all. I'm going to just attach them to that same college basketball package. So that's what's up on my page. As far as the question that I just saw, I'm not betting against Drake right now. That is, so if you followed the off-season sort of stuff with Drake, of course, DeVries leaves, takes his son, his best players, goes over to West Virginia. Drake, basically an entirely new team, but the coach that they brought in, I believe is Ben McCollum, is just someone I'm not betting against. So it has to be Drake or pass for me until further notice. I think the market kind of just, rated Drake out as a team that was like in a rebuild. They're a very good basketball team. And Vandy's a team that I think is kind of been high variance so far. Not fully sort of in on Vandy just yet. So it would be Drake or pass for me in that one for sure.
Drake or pass, but Trig locked and loaded, ready to roll here across the board. College hoops at his page at WagerTalk.com. You got any NFL action as well today, Trig, you're looking at?
Yeah, I just have the 5%er, so I don't really even have many other opinions to offer up. I kind of really taken the NFL volume down, and and I guess maybe unsurprisingly, Joe, I'm having my best stretch of the NFL season right now. So maybe I needed to go a little bit lower volume, but like I said, I already hit the Browns on Thursday night, and I've got a 5%er. I'll throw one more college hoop opinion out there. Not something I played, but this is one of the bigger games today. I like Pitt against Wisconsin. I couldn't bring myself to lay 2.5. I do think they win that game. That's one of the more higher profile games. You got 6-0 team against 6-0 team. I believe this game is being played in West Virginia at an MTE, like the final of like an MTE. Of course, Pitt will have plenty of fans in attendance if they want to. That's much closer geographically, and Pitt is really very close to West Virginia, so I expect them to have more of a fan presence. But we did a preview for Pitt. Myself and Brian Power previewed Pitt before the season, and I talked about how high I was on this Pitt team. Unfortunately, the odds makers, I feel like, have kind of been right there with me. They've made it difficult to find spots to play on them. I was really close to laying the 6.5 against LSU. That was an easy win. I'm really close to. I would have probably played Pitt at like a pick. Where it is at -2.5 or 3 makes it a little bit tougher to want to these MTEs can be tricky, Joe. And so if I don't get a setup that I absolutely love, I usually pass. Again, I just didn't really want to lay a juiced money line or lay a bucket, but I'd be surprised if Pitt loses. Jalen Lowe is just a revelation. This was part of our preview with Brian. I said that's guy could be the breakout player of the year in the ACC. It's looked to be the case. He had a career day against LSU in the last game of this tournament or on Friday afternoon. I love this Pitt roster. They're way deeper than I think anyone expected. Just going into the bench, Cummings, Austin, the 2 Diaz-Graham brothers, Leggett, the Rhode Island transfer. There's just so much to like about this Pitt team. I'm not saying that there's not a lot to like about Wisconsin, but maybe a little bit inflated from the Arizona upset from the other day. And now, of course, we saw Arizona get dragged out of their own arena by Duke. I think Pitt probably wins this game.
It is. Adam Trigger over at WagerTalk.com, guys. Locked, loaded in the college hoops. Trig, good luck today. 5% NFL best bet, locked and loaded as well. We'll see you again, of course, during the week in the college basketball tip-off show. And that about wraps it up for us here, guys. Do not forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become part of the Wager Talk TV family. Mark it down on the calendar. Saturdays, last call, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Sundays, 12 o'clock Eastern time, an hour before kickoff in college and the NFL. Come back and join us each and every week. And don't forget to check out all the great videos that we've got on a daily basis across all the sports here on Wager Talk TV. On behalf of VR, Of course, Mark Zinno there. Vegas Murray, who sooner or later will get a microphone that works. I promise you there at the Westgate Superbook. And of course, we appreciate you guys, each and every one of you hanging out. Best of luck with the plays here today, guys. We'll see you again next week on Last Call.